Deion Sanders didn't just raise a quarterback. He raised a strategist. Shedeur Sanders walked into that press conference already knowing what was coming. The twisted questions, the subtle digs, the manufactured conflict. What he delivered in return wasn't just a rebuttal. It was a masterclass in staying grounded. Every answer carried the weight of Deion's philosophy. Protect your integrity. Know who you are, and never let the system define you. In the face of an aggressive question meant to provoke division, Sanders leaned into truth, and that truth wasn't shaken.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
This wasn't the reaction of someone caught off guard. It was the execution of a plan built over years, an intellectual response grounded in purpose, not impulse. Sanders used the moment to expose how the media system works against young players, especially black quarterbacks, and how that cycle can be broken. His leadership was deliberate, transparent, and unflinching, showing that resistance doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes, it's the stillness of knowing you're right. Right after the final whistle, you're standing in the press room. The lights are blinding, cameras are rolling, and Shedeur Sanders sits down with the calm of someone who knows exactly what's about to happen. The first question flies in fast, and it's not about his performance, not about the scoreboard. No. It's a loaded one, a trap disguised as journalism. A reporter tries to wedge a narrative between him and his coaching staff. The kind of question that's not looking for insight, just drama. Without skipping a beat, Shedeur shuts it down. He doesn't fall for it. Instead, he pivots straight into a call for unity. He refuses to let that question shape the storyline. Instead, he lays it out clearly. The team comes first. The media, he says, is trying to divide them, and he's not here for it. It's the first real moment you see the playbook unfolding, not on the field, but behind the microphone. This wasn't just one uncomfortable question. Throughout the entire press conference, Shedeur lays it bare. The NFL media, in his words, plays a dangerous game. They manipulate. They twist. They bait players into emotional responses, then spin them into chaos. He spells out the system, step by step. Loaded questions, sensationalized headlines, manufactured locker room beef. And the worst part? It's aimed directly at young, promising athletes, especially young black quarterbacks like himself. He doesn't just complain about it. He exposes it. Shedeur speaks with a clarity that makes the room shift. This isn't a quarterback rambling after a loss. This is someone who understands how media manipulation works and how it's weaponized to derail careers before they've even begun. He's not asking for sympathy. He's demanding accountability. What really hits hardest is the way he frames it all. Shedeur doesn't position himself as a victim. He comes across as someone prepared, educated, and ready to challenge the rules of a game no one ever explains to players until it's too late. He's not new to this. He grew up with Deion Sanders as a father, a man who's been at the center of media attention his entire career. That legacy shows. You can see the coaching in his tone, his posture, the way he never gives an inch to bad faith questions. Shedeur talks about speaking life into narratives. He says directly that players have to be intentional with their words. Every press interaction becomes an opportunity to lead, to protect your team, to push back against the machine. It's deeper than PR training. It's about knowing the game within the game. He even talks about emotional intelligence. That's not a word you hear often in a post-game Q&A, but here it is, delivered like a challenge to every young player listening. You want to survive this league? You need more than speed and strength. You need to think 3 moves ahead. You need to know who benefits when you take the bait. That, he says, is how they get you. And when he says they, there's no confusion. It's the same media outlets who will twist a quote into a headline, then act shocked when trust breaks down between athletes and reporters. Shedeur says he won't play into it. And more importantly, he won't let it break his focus. He's here to lead, and leadership, to him, means not feeding the monster. The weight of what Shedeur says lands even harder when you remember what he's playing through. He's not some fully healthy, carefree rookie. He's been playing through injuries, carrying a program, and still delivering the kind of performances that would break most players. And even after all that, he sits in that room, articulate and unshaken, dismantling a manipulative question like a seasoned veteran. This isn't just about defending himself. It's about protecting others too. He knows that younger players are watching, especially young black quarterbacks, who will one day face the same traps. By saying what he said, the way he said it, Shedeur is planting seeds. He's giving them the tools to recognize what's really happening before it's too late. He lays out the full system: provoke, distort, divide. Reporters take quotes out of context, then push them online like gasoline on a fire. They know exactly what they're doing. And when it works, it fractures trust inside locker rooms. Coaches start to question loyalty. Players question motives. The whole thing begins to unravel, not because of anything that happened on the field, but because someone wanted a viral headline. That's the scam, and Shedeur refuses to be part of it. He says no to their game, no to their framing, no to narratives built on speculation instead of substance. His message is clear: you don't get to weaponize my words against my people. Not today. At camp, you've already seen the leadership. Teammates talk about it. Coaches know it. He studies the game deeply, not just physically, but intellectually. Shedeur breaks down coverages like a coach. He doesn't just run plays. He explains why they work, why something failed, and how to adjust. That's not just high football IQ. That's preparation. That's film study. That's hours of mental reps built over years. It shows in his post-game demeanor too. Even after a tough match or a nagging injury, he doesn't deflect. He doesn't throw teammates under the bus. He talks strategy. He talks adjustments. He owns the process. And that's what separates him. That's what makes him more than just a promising rookie. It makes him a threat to the way the system normally works. Because the system depends on players being reactive. The moment a young quarterback lashes out, gets emotional, or stumbles through a question, that clip gets cut, posted, and circulated. But Shedeur doesn't give them that moment. He flips the script. He reclaims control by staying calm, being precise, and refusing to let someone else write his story. He says it best himself: I know why I'm doing this. That's the difference. He's not reacting blindly. He's moving with purpose. He's not here to feed headlines. He's here to lead a team, to grow a program, to show others how to stay focused when the noise gets deafening. And it's not just about football. His words hint at something bigger: a shift, a cultural correction. The media for years has relied on controlling athlete narratives, especially black athletes. They build them up, tear them down, and profit from both sides of the story. But Shedeur's resistance makes that model harder to sustain. Because the truth is, authenticity disrupts manipulation. And the more players realize that, the less control the media has. By standing up, by speaking out, Shedeur forces a conversation. He forces people to look at how these headlines get made, who benefits, and what it costs the players caught in the middle. It's not a tantrum. It's a strategy. And it's working. That's why this moment feels different. Shedeur didn't just push back. He exposed the whole machinery. He pulled back the curtain and dared everyone to look. No yelling. No meltdown. Just facts, delivered with composure and fire. The kind that sticks. If you've ever wanted to know how young athletes can protect their peace, this is it. Know the game. Know the trap. And walk right around it. Because, at the end of the day, Shedeur's not playing just to win games. He's playing to change the culture. Drop a comment if you caught that moment live. Share this if you've seen this pattern happen before. And subscribe for more breakdowns, because when the mic drops like this, you don't want to miss what comes next. The longer you sit with what Shedeur said, the clearer it becomes that this wasn't an emotional outburst. This was calculated. He knew exactly where he was and who was listening. He knew that every word would be clipped, replayed, and debated. And still, he chose honesty over convenience. That's not common in this league, especially not from someone this young. He points out how quickly narratives get written before players even get a chance to grow. One bad quote, one twisted headline, and suddenly a quarterback is labeled difficult, selfish, or divisive. Those labels stick. They follow players from locker rooms to draft rooms to contract talks. Shedeur isn't guessing here. He's describing a pattern that's been playing out for decades. What makes his stance hit harder is how calmly he delivers it. There's no anger in his voice. No need to raise it. He talks like someone who has already made peace with the reality of the system and decided he won't let it shape him. That level of self-awareness doesn't happen by accident. It comes from being taught early that fame, attention, and scrutiny are tools that can either build you or break you. Shedeur keeps circling back to intention. Why you speak. Why you respond. Why you refuse certain questions. He's clear that silence can be just as powerful as an answer when the question is designed to hurt rather than inform. That's not dodging responsibility. That's protecting your team and your future. You can hear Deion Sanders in every measured response, even when he's not in the room. The philosophy is obvious. Stay true. Don't let outsiders define you. Understand the business side of the sport just as well as the game itself. Deion lived through media cycles that were far more aggressive and far less forgiving, and those lessons clearly carried over. Shedeur doesn't name his father constantly, but the influence is undeniable. The idea that authenticity scares systems built on control feels lifted straight from lived experience. Deion challenged narratives his entire career, and Shedeur is doing the same, just in a different era with different weapons. Social media amplifies everything, including misinformation. That makes awareness even more critical. Later, when Shedeur expands on his comments, he doubles down. He explains that this isn't about being combative with reporters. It's about refusing to be used. There's a difference. He respects the profession when it's done honestly. What he rejects is the version of it that feeds on conflict because conflict sells. He talks openly about mental health, about how constant scrutiny can erode confidence if you let it. Quarterbacks already carry the weight of entire franchises. Add manufactured controversy on top of that, and it becomes overwhelming. His solution isn't to disengage completely. It's to engage smarter, to control the message instead of reacting to it. On the field, that same control shows up in his play. Even while dealing with injuries, he stays composed. He doesn't rush reads just to prove toughness. He doesn't abandon fundamentals when pressure hits. That discipline mirrors his media approach. Know what you're seeing. Don't panic. Execute. When he breaks down plays, it's clear he understands coverage schemes and defensive disguises at a level that goes beyond surface knowledge. He knows when he made the wrong read and says it plainly. That accountability matters. It's harder for narratives to stick when a player owns his mistakes before anyone else can spin them. That's another piece of the media playbook he quietly dismantles. When players dodge accountability, reporters fill in the gaps themselves. Shedeur removes that opening. He critiques himself honestly, praises his teammates publicly, and keeps disagreements in-house. There's nothing there to fracture. He even acknowledges that the media machine won't change overnight. That's not his goal. His goal is survival with integrity intact. To walk out of each interaction knowing he didn't compromise his values for a soundbite. That mindset is rare, especially in an environment designed to test it daily. Inside the team environment, that approach builds trust. Teammates see someone who won't throw them under the bus when things get hard. Coaches see a quarterback who understands responsibility extends beyond the field. That's leadership, whether it comes with a captain's patch or not. At practice, the preparation speaks louder than any quote. Film sessions. Representatives' conversations about adjustments. None of that makes headlines, but it's the foundation that keeps everything else steady. When pressure comes from outside, the work done inside is what holds. By the end of it all, what Shedeur Sanders offers isn't controversy, it's clarity. He's showing young athletes that you don't have to play the role written for you. You can acknowledge the system without being consumed by it. You can speak truth without burning bridges. You can lead without being loud. That's why this moment matters. Not because of one reporter or one question, but because of what it represents. A player refusing to let his story be told by someone else. If this conversation resonated with you, make sure to engage. Like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, pass it along to someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more conversations that cut through the noise. The silence that followed his press conference wasn't from lack of content. It was the kind of silence that comes when a room realizes they've just heard something that might actually shift the culture. Shedeur didn't rant. He didn't explode. He simply dismantled the entire media formula by refusing to participate in it. He said it clearly. There's a difference between truth and agenda. The media wants drama because drama gets clicks. But athletes need clarity, not chaos. And if the system won't provide it, he will create his own. With every answer, every redirect, he was laying out a new blueprint. One that's not built on fear, but on control. Not control over others, but control over self. In follow-up interviews, you could see the shift in tone from reporters. Some were defensive. Others tried to walk back their own roles in the cycle. But Shedeur didn't flinch. He stuck to the message. It's not about destroying the media. It's about revealing the pattern. Because when you know what to expect, you don't fall for it. He even challenged the idea that vulnerability is weakness. Talking about mental pressure, performance anxiety, or emotional fatigue is still taboo in a league obsessed with toughness. But Shedeur pushed back on that, too. Real toughness, he said, is knowing who you are when everyone's trying to tell you otherwise. That's the game within the game. And he's winning it. The thing is, the league doesn't know what to do with someone like him. He's not easily categorized. He's a coach's kid, but he's not just living in his dad's shadow. He's media savvy, but he's not playing nice for the cameras. He's confident without being cocky, and most importantly, he's aware. That awareness is rare, especially under the spotlight. But it's what makes his approach work. Because he's not trying to be invincible. He's trying to be unshakable. There's a difference. Invincibility is fake. It's a mask that cracks the first time someone takes a cheap shot. But unshakable? That's real. That's earned. And he's earning it one post-game at a time. Go back to the beginning of that press conference. The setup was obvious. The question was phrased just well enough to seem harmless, but it was bait. Do you think your coaches are holding you back? It's the kind of question that ruins locker rooms. That gets a viral headline, like QB throws coaching staff under the bus. And that's all it takes. But Shedeur didn't take the bait. He stopped the narrative before it could form. He didn't just avoid the trap. He pointed at it, named it, and dared others to keep setting it. And in that moment, a new standard got set. Not just for quarterbacks, but for any player who's tired of being used as a soundbite machine. At training camp, that same clarity is what makes him stand out. He's constantly talking to teammates, not barking orders, but building understanding. He breaks down defenses in walkthroughs. He gives young receivers advice on route adjustments. That's not showboating, that's investment. The coaching staff sees it. They know when a player is just going through motions, and when he's internalizing the full picture. Shedeur is doing the mental work most don't see. And because of that, when he talks about leadership off the field, it hits different. It doesn't sound like branding. It sounds like someone who's been coached to lead the right way and decided to believe in that process. In one of the later interviews, he said something that stuck. I don't fear criticism. I fear wasting potential. That line didn't trend. No one clipped it for a viral moment. But it sums up everything he's doing. The reason he won't play media games isn't because he's afraid. It's because they're a distraction from the work. And that work? It's nonstop. Watching film, adjusting footwork, studying opponents. But also learning how narratives get crafted, how perception is shaped, and how to avoid becoming someone else's story. That's what sets him apart. He's not just fighting for a starting spot. He's fighting for ownership over his own name. Because once a label sticks in the NFL, it's nearly impossible to shake. Ask any young quarterback who's ever been called a locker room issue or inconsistent leader. Those phrases don't just hurt, they cost contracts, chances, and careers. And more often than not, they're built on selective editing and manufactured outrage. That's why Shedeur's message matters. It's not just a personal stand. It's a survival guide. For every young player coming up, especially black quarterbacks who get less margin for error, it's a warning. Know the game they're playing before they play you. When you hear him speak, you realize this isn't a media rebellion. It's a culture shift. One player choosing honesty over optics, choosing clarity over chaos, choosing unity over ego. And if it catches on, the ripple effects could be massive. Players talking more openly, reporters forced to ask better questions, fans learning to spot the difference between accountability and baiting. All of it leads to a healthier, more transparent environment. One where performance is judged on facts, not frames. And that shift starts with voices like Shedeur's, steady, sharp, and unafraid. There's something powerful about watching someone call out a system in real time and stay composed while doing it. Shedeur didn't flinch, didn't waver, didn't let frustration muddy his message. That's not just poise, that's strategy. And it's rare. Because usually, when athletes push back on the media machine, it gets messy. It turns combative, it becomes a spectacle, and eventually, it gets dismissed as immaturity. But this wasn't that. This was methodical. It was precise. And it made people uncomfortable for the right reasons. Because when someone names the game, exposes the patterns, and still manages to outthink them in real time, it takes the power away from those who rely on silence, confusion, and manipulation to maintain control. Shedeur's message wasn't just for his teammates. It was for the future rookies, the kids watching at home, the ones who still think being talented is enough. He's telling them, talent will get you to the league, but awareness is what keeps you there. If you don't know what they're trying to make you say, they'll decide who you are before you ever get a chance to show it. And maybe that's what rattles the system the most. He's not just protecting himself. He's lighting a path for others to follow. He's refusing to be reduced to a media caricature. And in doing so, he's redefining what leadership in football looks like. One press conference at a time. If that gave you chills too, let's keep this going. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Send this to someone who's been watching the narrative twist too many times. And hit that subscribe so you don't miss the next time someone takes the mic and flips the whole league on its head.